Welcome to the Ascension Path with Twin Essence. I'm Lacey.
And I'm Marley, and we're your Starseed Lightworker and Psychic Medium hosts.
We're identical twins with spiritual abilities and Starseed missions on Earth. On the Ascension Path, we discuss what it's like to be identical twins serving in a spiritual capacity and provide insights into our work as Starseeds. We create a sacred space to receive channeled messages, intuitive teachings, and expansive conversations that elevate your frequency and support your evolution. Join us to learn about navigating the path to Ascension and becoming the most authentic, aligned version of you. Take what resonates and leave the rest. In this episode, we are going to be channeling in on the Pleiadians. So we are bringing in a lighter, brighter, and even more magical star being today. Just a quick recap, this journey from Earth's inception through the different star beings. We started with the Lyran and Syrian groups and the conflicts that arose from those two groups that led them to their desire to create Project Earth with the founders. Then we went to Orion, where we uncovered the deeper and darker side of polarity and conflict with no resolution that ultimately led them to having souls wanting to move to Earth and incarnate on Earth as part of Project Earth. So when we talk about Pleiadian star beings, they are coming from the Pleiades star cluster. So this is actually maybe slightly different than Lyra, Sirius, and Orion, and that those are more of constellations and Sirius even being just a binary star system. But Pleiades is just a star cluster, not necessarily a constellation. And within this cluster, you have all these Pleiadian beings existing within their own little bubble of positive polarization. So I think the big difference between Pleiadians and the other three main star being groups that we've talked about, being Lyrans, Syrians, and Orions, is Pleiadians were pretty much off in isolation in their star cluster. They were not experiencing the extreme duality of living and existing within different polarities. They were pretty much existing within a positive polarity and in their own little bubble, like Marley said. They weren't having these big issues amongst their people the way we saw the other star beings have them. They got to experience positive polarity with nothing negative. And some interesting things grew out of that experience for them. So one thing when we talk about polarization and integration in the ascension process is that staying in one polarity only does not equate to integration and moving back to source. So I kind of relate it a little bit to when we talked about Orion star beings and when we talked about the positively polarized ones and how staying in that positive polarization can be at the detriment of the self at times. That is what goes on within Pleiadian star beings in this cluster. It's positive polarization, but it can be at the detriment of the self, being that they care so much about the collective and each other and their planet and their star cluster that they're not thinking heavily about themselves and where they should be integrating within themselves. So what this means is there's no returning to source then, because we don't have a different polarity to create change, to create that balance, to eventually move back to source. And remember, you really can't have just one, like Marley was saying, in order to grow. You can't just experience one polarity and expect yourself to grow from that. You need that pain point and that growth edge to actually help yourself ascend and move forward. And the Pleiadians did want to do this work. They did want to move forward and grow and learn. I think that they just got very
Isolated, maybe?
yes, and
In their bubble?
with the little world they did create that felt really good and positive without any conflict. But they did start to learn that they wanted to ascend and they did want to learn and grow and they wanted to advance their DNA for their people as well. One thing they're bringing up right now is how we see this interact within humanity right now on Earth, which is that as we talk about integration and two different points being needed in order to return to source, the same can be said for humanity in that if you're not experiencing different polarities or different challenges, your life is going to be extremely boring. You need the challenges, you need tragedy and trauma in order to grow within this lifetime and to evolve and ascend with Gaia. And Pleiadians did recognize that they wanted to advance their DNA, they wanted to ascend, they wanted to interact with others. And when they were able to recognize this, they decided to take an interest in Earth, essentially. Pleiadian star beings are closely connected to Earth. They are actually closer to humanity's genetic makeup than I would say any other galactic being, which maybe that seems crazy, maybe that doesn't, but we closely associate them with Earth. They have a strong love for humanity, and they have that close DNA structure. Even when we talk about the Syrian elders experimenting with a third density and experimenting with physical forms, Pleiadians as well had very close physical forms to what humanity is today. And what happened is when the founders and the Lyrans and Syrians came together and said, we're going to create this project on Earth, and this is how we're actually going to achieve integration. We have the Orions saying, hell yeah, we're going to incarnate, we're going to change this historical story that we've had with our people. Now, it did take some convincing to get the Pleiadians to become part of Project Earth because they were in their little bubble and it was positive and there wasn't any conflict, which who wouldn't love that experience? But they also wanted to ascend and they wanted to experience these different densities and ultimately go through this process of ascension and integration like the other star beings were trying to go through. So the Pleiadians did reluctantly agree and they did seed a ton of humans that are on Earth right now. In fact, I would say we probably experience more Pleiadian star seeds on Earth than we do any other kind at this point in our work. I agree with that. I think that's a fair assessment, and it makes sense, right? Pleiadians having that close genetic structure to humanity, they always feel closer in density to humanity. Now, that does not mean that they're not still a high 5D density. They still definitely are compared to humanity, but they always feel quite close energetically and density wise to us as humans on Earth right now. And one of the things that they're also showing me as we're talking about this in a historical sense to give listeners and viewers an insight into how this came to be and how the Pleiadians entered the picture, they also are showing me this overseeing council that this Pleiadian council, if you will, Pleiadian Council of Light is how it's coming through, and how they oversee their star seeds and the work that's being done right now on Earth as Pleiadian star seeds are doing currently. And they're just showing me how they appear as well. And I think that kind of leads into discussing Pleiadian traits. They come through as very tall figures that are full of white light, or they have like an iridescent we always compare it to aura quartz. Yes, it's like that rainbow iridescence to them. But yes, white light is exactly how I would describe them as well. I wasn't joking in the beginning when I said lighter and brighter. They literally are. They're very airy. They flow. That's just how they come through. It's a lot more flowy as opposed to other star beings, I would say. I also think of them as being very sensitive and emotional. So that's why, like, even connecting to them right now in this episode, it feels very emotional. And that's because they truly are extremely sensitive and aware of their emotions, which again, we see shine through in humanity within those star seeds on Earth right now. And when they're showing me the Council of Light, how they have assigned agents is the word. That is okay. Agents, the word agents coming from a Pleiadian is, I find that so funny. I don't know why, but that's the word. It's like almost like you're like, I feel like I'm in a call center and it's like, and number 200, 350,001. It's like the scene in Beetlejuice. Yes. Where they're
Yes.
pulling the numbers, waiting to call the counter or DMV. No, but that's so funny hearing that word from Pleiadians because it feels so unlike their energy or personality to me. Like, ask a Syrian, they're gonna say agent. Ask an Orion, they might say agent. Lyran, they'll definitely say agent. But a Pleiadian,
That's just really funny to me. It's a very 3D term for them.
Well, and I think they're also trying to put it into a relative term for us to understand it as
Yes.
I'm channeling it, but it's kind of like an agent. They have their agents assigned and they're overseeing their seed on Earth. They're overseeing their star seed that has a specific mission on Earth right now. And when we talked about how they come through with that big being of light, they're often very, very tall beings, and people always get them confused with angels. And we often have clients who come to us and are like, I don't understand these Pleiadians because some people online are telling me, no, they're an angel, and some people are saying they're not. Let me tell you and clarify this, they are not angels. They have a similar feel to an angel in terms of how they tend to appear to humans or when you channel them.
And that high density state, I think some people can confuse that energetically, but it's very different.
But they're not an angel. That's the thing. The angel energy and the Pleiadian energy are two different things. And I would say if people are calling them the same thing, they're just not using discernment on those two vibrations because there is a difference. And Pleiadians are just a higher vibration, like Marley said. They're probably getting the densities confused. Angels are very high vibration, but Pleiadians, star beings, they're also a very high vibration. You don't just channel star beings unless you're able to raise your vibration enough to actually integrate and understand what they're communicating with you. Channeling star beings is very different from psychic mediumship. It just is on a vibrational level very different. So I can understand where people get Palladian energies confused with angel energies. But they're not the same thing, they're very different.
The other thing with Palladians is that they do pull through a strong calming presence. It's like a quiet reverence. It's like this admiration that comes through for humanity when we connect with them and how sensitive they are, how empathic they are, how much they truly understand the emotions of humanity and how much they care about humanity and how much I think that they play their role on Gaia right now with the starseeds they've planted here.
And empathy is really one of those traits that is a hallmark to a Pleiadian starseed. They have this deep level of empathy, and the emotional aspect of a Pleiadian is typically much more advanced than I would say other starseeds. I would say all starseeds have empathy, but Pleiadians tend to be much more sensitive and emotional. I think one of the roles we often see Pleiadian starseeds have is being the space holders, whether that be in a spiritual capacity or in a more traditional role, like they're showing me like a nurse right now,
A counselor, that word's coming through for me.
these are typically roles that we see Palladians in. They are not going to be rebellious. They are not going to be aggressive. They are just a much gentle being, and it's what is written in their DNA.
But the other thing about Pleiadians is Pleiadian star seeds often are activists as well. So while they are not rebellious and they may be peaceful, they have a strong sense of duty and care over rights and activism for causes they care about. Most often, those causes are going to be environmental related, animal rights, just think like civil justice, topics like that, that they strongly care about. They're going to go about it in a peaceful way, but they have a strong passion for it that shines through in their personality and most of what they do on Earth traditionally.
That is the trademark hallmark of a Palladian starseed.
The other thing about Pleiadian star seeds on Earth is that because they tend to be so positively polarized, which is serving of others, and as we've talked about previously, if you're too positively polarized, sometimes it's at the detriment of the self. And you need to work to create that balance within yourself and the collective. That's truly ascension. But as human starseeds who are from Pleiades, in their human incarnations with that positive polarization, it sometimes means they can go through, I would say, challenges interpersonally. So, what I mean by this is A lot of the Pleiadian starseeds on Earth have incarnations designed to try to create more integration within themselves because of the problems they've had in the past with constantly serving others and not themselves, which again creates that loop of you can't go back to source, you can't integrate. So what we see is a lot of Pleiadian starseeds going through some difficult personal challenges. It could be deep healing topics of trauma from their childhood, deep healing or traumas they experience in their adulthood. These different challenges, though, are built into their incarnations purposefully by the Pleiadian Council in order for them to create more integration within and stop living at the detriment of themselves. You're also going to see more Palladians that lean towards that philanthropic work. And this really comes down to animals and humans and how they're helping others. So typically, Palladians have a big bleeding heart when it comes to animal rights and children and homelessness. These are just topics that they're bringing through me that are coming up. Oftentimes, you will see Palladians that are unable to eat meat because they just don't believe in having to kill an animal for food. And this is a very common Palladian crisis, I'm going to say.
What's the
We
perfect word
have
for it?
plenty of Palladian clients who go through the struggles of figuring out what's right for them because they have this like innate ability to feel empathy and emotions of all these different beings, and then they don't want to make the wrong move and they don't want to hurt something else. But everybody's ascension path is different. So what works for you isn't necessarily going to be what works for someone else. And that's really what's coming through strong too with the work that we do as ascension guides, because we don't have a one size fits all. We don't have one master plan that we give to every client that says, and this is steps 1 through 370 that's going to get you to ascend. That's just not how it works. We're all individual humans. We're all different star seeds. We all carry different generational patterns, beliefs, and programming, and have different healing journeys. We have different missions and purposes. So, not one ascension path is going to look quite like the other. Marley and I are a little bit of an exception because we are twins that incarnated together. We have a shared mission, we have a shared purpose, but we do have different programming, I would say, in different areas that we each work on and are able to help each other with. And this journey really is a shared journey. We're here to go through this with others. We're here to learn through others. You can't just ascend in a silo. Unfortunately, that's just not how it works. So everyone has a unique path, like Lacey said, in the ascension process. But commonly, those are the struggles that we see with Pleiadian starseeds on Earth. It creates, I would say, a sense of guilt and shame within them, which again goes back to what I mentioned earlier, that their incarnations were designed this way for a reason. They're supposed to be going through these internal conflicts for a reason, and that's because they're trying to create more integration and balance themselves a little bit more than maybe what they traditionally have seen in their galactic state. The other thing that comes through is that sometimes Pleiadian starseeds struggle with integration because they're so positively polarized. They think that there's only one way to exist. And this isn't stubbornness. It's not the stubbornness that we see in Orion starseeds, for example. It's not a stubbornness. It's almost like they're so pure-hearted that they just cannot fathom anything on Earth being harmed or trauma or negative or dark energy at all. It's like this naivety, I describe it as. Like I compare it to a child almost.
Yes.
Like it's almost like this genuine innocence of we should all be getting along and nothing should be killed and we should all be in peace and harmony, linking arms, and it's not a stubbornness. It's almost like an innocence. It's like being naive to understanding integration fully, which is why, again, we see their incarnation designed with specific challenges that they are going through to create more integration. And that's a lot of what Lacey and I do as Ascension guides. It's helping different starseeds on Earth right now understand their own path, but also understand where they can create more integration within the self and the collective. And I think that Pleiadian starseeds are a really interesting type of client that we work with because of that trait of wanting everything to just be happy in the little Pleiades cluster bubble that they've previously existed within. I think that was a really good way of describing it. It reminds me of what we always call the loss of childhood innocence. Like when your veil of the world's a great place as a child is finally like lifted. Like Pleiadians don't have that. Like I feel like we see that in all the other starseed types, but I think with Pleiadians, it's like was the veil ever lifted? And you have to be very gentle with this. But that's what we love about them too. It's a fantastic duality experience for other starseeds and humans and their incarnations because they are able to see the world through a very loving, empathetic lens. And that's what makes them so special. That, in and of itself, is something that other people can learn from working with a Pleiadian starseed in their lifetime. You see these Pleiadian starseeds, they tend to be very nature loving. They tend to be like your naturalist. So they don't like any synthetics. They don't like anything fake. They are really health conscious to like the nth degree typically. Yeah, there's no potato chips and McDonald's drive-through on their menu. It's also for a Palladian, it's learning to allow yourself to also experience some of these 3D things. And you can have a cheat day. You can eat something that's not on your approved food list. You can go out and experience the world and see the wonders of nature and what Gaia herself has created. These are just fantastic traits that we see in Pleiadian starseeds. The biggest message coming through is that humanity is meant to be experienced. And that is something that I think Pleiadian starseeds struggle with at times. And a lot of their incarnations are designed so that they can experience the full spectrum that humanity offers them, which is the highs and lows of emotional states, which is going to be some challenges and maybe some easy times. The other thing I want to bring up that they are telling me right now actually has to do with helping their star seeds on Earth right now. This is so Palladian because I was getting the same vibe from them. I'm like, oh, now they're gonna have us give messages to their fellow Palladian star seeds out on Earth right now. So Palladian star seeds, this one's for you. Yep, this one is for you, Palladian star seeds. If you are listening, you can receive this transmission and see if this resonates with you. But they are challenging you right now. We know that you are positively polarized. We know how much you care about humanity, the causes you support, how you view ascension on Earth. But they are challenging you. They are challenging you to open your mind and see things from a different perspective. What this means is when you encounter a different star being type, or when you encounter someone who maybe isn't positively polarized, maybe they're negatively polarized, which means they're serving self. They're challenging you to look at it from that human's perspective and that incarnation's perspective. So putting your shoes into the opposite polarity and saying, why is this person making this decision? Why is this person doing this? And understanding where that incarnation or human is coming from in their decision making process. You might view something, a cause, something that you're active in. Maybe it's just that you care about the environment. Maybe it's just something as simple as recycling. You might care strongly about that and see the benefits of that. But put yourself into the opposite shoes on the polarity spectrum, see that perspective and see where that decision is coming from, where the energy is coming from on that side of the spectrum, so that you can have a full understanding of integration and understand the balance that's needed for ascension. Understand that balance and integration point, which is about accepting, accepting of the different perspectives that are needed for integration for Gaia's ascension. Just because someone is doing something different from how you would do it or believe something different from what you believe doesn't mean that it's wrong. Sometimes, as starseeds, we think there's a right way to do things, but that's not really the case on Earth. There's all these different ways to do things within the different polarities, and it's our job to find that balance point, understand what we believe in, but not pass judgment on other people that are doing it a different way. This isn't a one size fits all journey. This isn't a one size fits all path. We all have a role to play, and we all have different beliefs that are going to get us there and different work to do. So, this is one of learning, this is one of balance, this is one of acceptance. You don't need to understand it, so to speak. Humans often get very caught up in understanding something or wanting to be understood by someone or something. You don't need understanding is really more of a human ego emotion. You need to accept it though. You can accept it. That is going to get you a lot further than the need to understand or be understood. That is the number one thing they're pulling through is that word acceptance. It's acceptance at the heart level. Because I can feel it in the heart chakra coming from them right now. Full body chills. It is acceptance. Don't confuse acceptance for not being able to make a change, though. You can still advocate and you can still make changes. It's just about understanding integration as it relates to the ascension process and where that acceptance may be needed on a personal level and a collective level. So we hope you all listening and viewing received what you needed to receive and that our Pleiadian Starseeds received the transmission from the Pleiadian Council. While we entered into a lighter and brighter star cluster in this episode, we are actually going to be going into the light. Is it possible? We are lifting the veil, if you will, and we are traveling to, drumroll please, Arcturus.